So let's just dive right into the topic. So top of funnel, you get your marketing people running, and you get a big launch. You get a bunch of people to install your app, and then none of them get through the onboarding experience. And I think that's one of the first that we want to start with. We can't help you with your top of funnel, right? Because game marketing is basically the same, but we can help you once people open your app. What can we learn from Games Chip that can apply to any application or any web app?
Sure. So, most people will decide within the first 5 minutes if they're going to stay on your website, stay in your app. And I'm probably being generous with 5 minutes. So, give you an example. I did an app. In the first 3 months, we got 10 million downloads, but we still struggled to keep it profitable because people just dropped off. And so what happens is with games and really anything is people want to get to the good stuff as soon as possible. So a lot of times we don't even think we're doing it, is we put up barriers in the way of them getting to the good stuff. So big things we learned in gaming was if you've got a mobile app, for example, is keep your download as small as possible, because not everybody has a great cell connection, or if you got to go to Wi-Fi to download it, you're probably going to lose that customer. If your onboarding process is too long, you're asking a ton of questions to complete, a lot of times people will just stop and get out of it. Or if you have a website and the loading times to run a query, people are waiting, once again, they'll stop. They just will, they don't have the time. Too many clicks, we call it. If there's too many clicks to get to where you want to go, if your site is hard to navigate, that's a big thing. And one thing I especially now, because mobile phones and tablets are how a lot of people are using the internet and mobile and connecting to services, is make sure that your site is mobile friendly. A true life example, my wife loves her iPad. So she's the CFO of our house. So she was going to go online, she's going to pay bills. There's many websites that kind of work on a tablet. And so what you're doing is you're preventing people from paying you because they cannot use your device to pay you. The other thing is, all software is going to have bugs, but you don't want to let these little bugs get in the way of important things, such as your onboarding, or, if you're registering, you have to send an email or a text confirmation, and it takes an hour to get that email, or 10 minutes, 15 minutes to get that text, you're going to lose that customer, because a lot of times that email times out, the text times out, and they'll get into the loop and they'll just stop. And so I call this dying by 1,000 cuts. It's not one big bug that's getting in the way. It's little issues that are just preventing your users from interacting with your product. And so they're just going to say, you know what, this is not worth it. And just one big thing, pet peeve, is a lot of times you download an app, you go to a website, first thing they do is they throw a rating up. How can I rate you if I never even used your product yet? So you should work with your marketing team, and when you should bring that up. We used to do 7 days. After that, every 3 weeks. If they gave a review, we wouldn't bug them anymore. So just get rid of those barriers so they can get into and start using your product.
Right. Yeah, I think the goal is to get to that aha moment that you've probably heard of as quickly as humanly possible. So two things that I heard there is, the rating thing, it cannot be stressed enough. If you're on the web, the Nielsen rating, it could be a survey, it could be a marketing pop-up, or one of those little chat bots that shows up in the corner saying, hey, can I help you? Don't pop that stuff up when a user is just logged in your app, because the user is in your app, they've opened it for a reason, right? And if you get any in the way of that reason, every second you add to that experience is going to reduce the user's ability to get to that aha moment before they tab out, get a phone call, forget that you exist. You're not that important to your user. So it's very easy for them to go and do something else. If you're a B2B app, you have a little bit more leeway because you're probably delivering hopefully some business value. But what that's going to do is they're going to use your competition, and they're going to be evaluating and say, well, I could get in and just do my thing in 30 seconds with my competition. It took 40 seconds here. And that's not going to be something they say out loud, but it is something that they're going to psychologically remember. And for the rating, the best time to ask for a rating is after they've had a good experience with your app. So many apps get this wrong. Don't ask for a rating until the user has done something that has completed their experience with you in a way that creates a positive effect. And don't pop it up within the first 2 or 3 uses of the app, because they don't know whether your app's any good. They're not going to go and invest their time leaving you a review if they think your app's mediocre, or they just don't know who you are, right? You need to build passion in order to get those good reviews. The only people you get in those first few minutes are the people that hate your UI, hate your app, hate your company. Those are the ones that feel like leaving a rating within the first minute of using your application. So I think, is there anything else for lowering barriers to entry from games that you've learned?
Those are the big things. Just don't get in the way of the customer of being able to experience what you're trying to do.
Okay.
So I think got through most of those things. We're going to
I think that the one piece that I would add there on top is, during your onboarding experience, only ask for the information that's absolutely critical to run your application. We've built quite a few social networks, and it's amazing how much data the marketing department wants about people. Our next slide will be on analytics, and it's amazing how many details you want in order to cohort your people, your users. Don't get that right up front. Get it progressively, because every question you add to that onboarding experience is going to reduce the stickiness of your application. And you might think you want it, you might think you need it. You generally only need 2 or 3 answers to 2 or 3 questions in order to get started. Don't burden that process with more, because people don't want to go through a 3-stage wizard anymore. If you're a B2B app, even, they are using the apps on their phone. They're being trained by these apps, by these games, that they can get in and get their stuff done without having to go through this burdensome sign up process. So don't ask for that stuff. Make sure it's fast, make sure it's quick. I would say it's not 5 minutes, it's not 30 minutes. If you don't get that push notification with their login code to them within 10 seconds, you've got a real problem for onboarding.
And what we found out with games is that if they were engaged and they were coming back and playing, they'll be more willing to give you information, their email, their login, or give you better feedback, because they've experienced it. They've actually had time to actually digest what's going on, and tell you if they like it or not.
So now they're a user, pop up and say, hey, you've used it for a while, you want to sign up for a newsletter, right? Now you have their email. All right, don't do that right away.